Black residents live an average of 30 years less. Yeah, once again, 30, not 3, 30 years less than their white counterparts. That's according to New York University's Department of Population Health. This isn't a sudden development. The impact of historical systemic racism on life expectancy is the subject of a New York Times Magazine article titled "Black Lives Are Shorter in Chicago. My Family's History Shows Why." Here to talk about it is the author, Linda Villarosa, and she joins us on Start Your Day. Linda, first of all, thank you so much for joining us this morning. 30 years less. I mean, that number is staggering. In fact, you say Chicago has the largest, once again, racial gap in life expectancy among the 500 largest cities in the country. We repeated that once again. You lived there. You lived there until you was 10 years old. Looking back, doing your research, did that even surprise you?
Well, thank you for having me this morning. It's good to be here. It isn't a giant surprise, but I was surprised by the largeness of that gap. So in Inglewood, where my mother was born and raised, and in and around Inglewood, people lived to age 60, and 9 miles north in Streeterville, people live to age 90. And the gap may even be bigger now because of COVID. But that is staggering, and it's unfair.
So you take us through several things in your work in the article. Why? Why is Chicago? I only spent a short time in my life, grad school. I was there. It's such a segregated city. Does that hold the key?
Yes, the segregation really does hold the key. And when we look at health and when we look at life expectancy, the thinking is, why are people living less? Because they're not taking care of themselves, because they're uneducated, because they're not trying hard enough. When in actuality, in Chicago and in other cities, something happened to make communities less healthy. And in Chicago specifically, there were racial covenants that kept people from being able to accumulate wealth in their homes. There was redlining, which made certain neighborhoods, including Inglewood, less healthy. And then there was contract buying. So that Black people were unable to buy homes except on a contract, which means they didn't have equity and they could lose them at any time. And the reason that interests me was because that happened to my grandparents. So if you can't accumulate wealth, then you can't accumulate wealth.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago has its issues. You mentioned redlining, contract sale loans, bad resources or no resources at all, healthcare issues that we have in these inner cities. But these are issues that have affected other major cities as well when Black people migrated from the South and moved there, such as Los Angeles. We see that in New York as well. So why is it so much worse, do you think, in Chicago than in these other cities? Because once again, it's the worst out of the 500 largest cities in the United States.
I think that part of it is the accumulation of problems that have happened over time. So Chicago was a place, as I talked about in my article, where so many African Americans came during the Great Migration. So came from really extremely poor areas to seeing Chicago as a place of promise. And so, but they were kept hemmed into certain communities, and these communities were made less safe and less healthy due to, legal sanctions that kept Black people from thriving. But Chicago's a thriving city. So if you're allowing only some people to really thrive and others to languish, then it leads to problems in those communities.
Linda, what's the solution, right? As Mike said, this goes on in a lot of cities, but this life expectancy gap, this incredible gap in Chicago it's heartbreaking. What is being done? What should be done to rectify this?
I think that when I was interesting because I have, I'm a really positive person. But when I interviewed people for this story, I mean, it's got to be an all hands on deck kind of situation where you
Yeah.
look at communities that have been left behind and say, how can we rebuild them? And really putting resources to communities like Inglewood, where my mother went to high school, and really trying to do something and make change. And I think change is happening in some of the communities in Chicago, but it's not fast enough. The resources aren't large enough. But I think the main thing is to understand the why And if the why isn't because people aren't taking care of themselves or people don't care,
Yeah.
but it is something that has built up and happened in the past, then a debt is owed. A debt is owed to the people there.
Yes.
Yeah, but you know, a lot of times in these cities, obviously, and you kind of mentioned this earlier, the people will blame the victims. You know, if they would have just taken care of themselves and take care of their own resources, and especially in Chicago right now with everything that's going on with the murder rate being up, you know, the critics will say, look at some stats to say, well, if they stopped killing themselves, this wouldn't be so much of an issue. What do you say to them?
Well, there are twofold questions. Our America is, gun violence is a public health issue because of guns are dangerous. So if a country has too many guns in circulation, then that's a problem. The second thing is a high homicide rate or high murder rate in a community is a symptom of something else. It's a symptom of hopelessness. It's a symptom of being left behind. It's a symptom of a lack of jobs. So if you heal the community, you don't have a violent community. And so when someone says what you said, that kind of other take, it angers me because it's not a problem of people being violent. That is a stereotype that has come from, many centuries ago. It is a problem of a community that is, is in
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah, in pain, crying out. We know that gun violence is a public health crisis. It should be treated as such. Health disparities, we often talk about it on this show, the disparities between how whites and blacks are treated differently in the healthcare system. I know you were involved in the New York Times 1619 project. You researched medical myths. Tell us what you found when it came to physical, emotional pain, because it's real.
Well, there is a myth that still lingers in modern day medicine and modern day medical training that Black people feel less pain. And it's been proven in studies time and time that doctors, medical students, other medical providers believe that we feel less pain. The through line from that mythology and, false idea comes from enslavement. So if we felt less pain, both physical and emotional, then that justified forced labor. It justified torture. It justified breaking up families, selling people off, because it was, the idea was, well, they don't feel as much pain. It's okay. But that's wrong. And the fact that that is lingering in modern day medical practice is
Yeah, it's sick.
strange and wrong and
Yeah.
needs to be corrected.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
sick.
they didn't look at
It
us as
really is
humans.
sick.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
problem.
and that's where
Before
we
we
are
let you go,
today. So
yeah, we are. Before I let you go, I loved your article. I read your article. I think it was great. The fact that you took your mom back to her roots and just sat there and then looking at what used to be and how it was thriving and where it is now. I'm wondering what stood out the most about what you saw when you went back with your mom. And I suggest
I
anybody
think,
who has the New York Times, they read it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, thank you for that. And what stood out was when we went to her elementary school. So she spoke with such pride about, my mom's a really successful person. And she talked about role models that she had in her school. Lorraine Hansberry was her classmate in this school. And so then to see the school boarded, to see it sad, desolate, decaying,
yeah.
hurt. It hurt.
Wow. Just terrific. Terrific writing, terrific sharing, including your mom's story, your story. The New York Times Magazine article is called Black Lives Are Shorter in Chicago. My family's history shows why. We salute you, Linda Villarosa. Thank you so much for starting your day with us. And let's keep talking. We want you to come back on Start Your Day
Yes.
often. As you tackle these subjects, because it's not just Black pain, it's going to be all of our pain. It continues to be in America, and
Let's figure it out.
we need to hear more from people like you. We certainly do. We're right back. Thank you.